Ma'av Rabbeisai, we're back. The first 11 or 13 minutes of this program was my introduction and a YouTube of a radio program that I did about the power of women in the 3 weeks. I hope you enjoyed this Divrei Torah. And now on to the rest of the program. This is Yehud 11. You're listening to 11 at 11, where we catalog the decline of our culture and how that obligates us and how we have to contrast what the evildoers are doing. And as much as they do in a negative way, we are obligated, mida tova meruba, to do much more than that, quantifiably more in a positive way. This is like Newton's law of physics, but in a spiritual sense. Newton postulated that for every action, to reverse it, the physical action, you need an equal and opposite reaction. So if a car is going at 70 miles an hour, you need a braking power of 70 miles per hour in order to stop the car, in order to stop it from its progression. Similarly, our obligation, l'kadesh Shem Shamayim, as Rav Moshe Feinstein said, Laharis goli l'cholo amim she'ama Hashem soinei toyavas Hashem, that we have to demonstrate to all that Jewish people are opposed, loathe that which Kadosh Baruch Hu abominates. We have to do it with even more than the lishma, than with the ferocity and single-mindedness with which the mushchasim approach their task. And furthermore, we are obligated by the ground zero of what the Gentiles, the Todim Sheba'umas, are doing as they stand up for biblical moral values. Dare we do less? We have to do much more. And this was the philosophy of way over a dozen Gedolei Yisrael. I have it from them, both Baal Peh, orally, and Biksav, and in writing. Let's start to cover some ground. Fasten your seatbelts. HASC is having any day, maybe they already had it, an event of music and prayer with the Eish Kodesh Rabbi Moshe Weinberger. But you know, the Anshe Yerushalayim, it says in Chazal, the Rabbonim of Jerusalem, I think, they wouldn't sit down with Suda, with other people, until they knew who was sitting at the table. Because there's a concept of guilt by association, and you're associated together with them, so people can get the wrong idea. Similarly, we say every morning in Tefillah, right after the Birchas HaShachar, to save us, to preserve us from Pegara, Satanra, Chavera, Shochenra, bad neighbors. And therefore, it's sad, it's unfortunate that HASC, that's a Haredi-owned and Orthodox-run institution, should choose to do a fundraiser where I think his name might be the director, might be Rabbi Judah or something, Michelle. If I'm mispronouncing the name, I apologize. I don't know if this is his relative or not, but he had this person speaking there, Rabbi Balin or Bellini or something like that. Maybe we should call him Rabbi Bologna, from the 6th Street Synagogue in the lower Manhattan in the East Side. And he was speaking at this event. Now, why shouldn't the people have said, say Tomei to him? A number of years ago, a pseudo-ersatz Orthodox organization, which is what I'm trying to get across to you people now for a very long time, that the Mishchasim are making tremendous inroads into the periphery of the Orthodox community, and they're galloping towards mainstream Orthodoxy. And we're going to continue to catalog that to you at length on this evening's program. So a number of years ago, one of their horrific organizations is called Eshel. You know what, Avram, Achida, Shtia, Lina, etc. Eshel. So they give it these names. You understand, Rav Aaron Kotler, as I mentioned before, these proceedings, Rav Aaron Kotler used to use the term Mizayef HaTorah B'Shem HaTorah. It's one thing to do a transgression, to perform a transgression. It's another thing to sugarcoat, to disguise, to garb, to add, to make sure it's clad. The Avera, with the Itztalat Rabbanan, with the rabbinic garb, you try to make this is a chelik of Torah. You give it a name, Beit Simchat Torah. You give it a name, Eshel. What is Eshel? Eshel is a group that, again, it's a kanufiyah, it's a gathering together of homosexuals, lesbians, trannies, v'chuli, v'chuli. And they get together, and Eshel has events, and one of them was a Shabbaton. Could you imagine? They had a Shabbaton in Lower Manhattan in the East Side. Rev David Feinstein and all the Haredi Rabbonim signed a letter condemning having this occurrence. Who were two of the people who went along with this? This Rabbi Balin, or I'm mispronouncing his name, for which I apologize, from the 6th Avenue Synagogue, and a Rabbi Aviad Wagner, who is now going from the Stanton Street Synagogue. He has now been elevated, and he's beginning a new job on the Upper West Side at Ramat Ora, so he could bring his hashkasa there. These are the people who spit in the faces of the likes of David Feinstein and the Erlich Rabbonim of the East Side, Eshel. So what does Hask choose to have speaking? Rabbi Michel, you're going to explain this? I think we have to learn from our opponents, from our adversaries. What is Omar doing? What is she doing? She just introduced legislation in Congress, even if it won't get anywhere, to support the right of BDS to boycott Israel, etc., etc. We have to learn this is a favorite thing of the homosexuals, and we're going to discuss later how the head of Jewish queer youth, I call him Captain Queer, was Zach Mordechai Malki Levovitz, who likes to get dressed up, put on makeup, and primp her hair. I don't know what it is. I was trying to dialogue with him, and he said it's just a costume party. But me thinks it's a bigger psychological problem than just a costume party. I think it's really a perversion. It's a deviance. So him, unfortunately, another fellow, an activist, they were putting heavy pressure to try to get Elliot Resnick of the Jewish Press fired because of his comments that he made on tweets, on his personal tweetosphere. So they employ this boycott concept, the firing, all of this cruelty, all of this homofascism they employ. We have to learn from them. Omar was introducing a bill saying that, listen, if people want to boycott a country, she didn't mention Israel, but everybody understood what this woman, this Muslim woman, was doing. They should have the right to do whatever boycotts they want, in other words, to support BDS. So I really think that people should be calling up Hask and saying, we want an apology. They demanded an apology. Yank my chain, Nowitz Horowitz, the great pedagogue, who was featured for many years as this great expert in kids at risk and everything else by Agudas Yisrael, and has gone off the ranch tremendously in his pro-homosexual viewpoints. He demanded an apology from the Jewish press that they allowed a certain piece to be an op-ed piece, an opinion piece, which I will get to discuss in Yis Hashem. So I think we have to demand nothing less from Hask. There has to be an apology. Why didn't you check the tzitzis and do the due research? And this Rabbi Michel, maybe it's his brother-in-law, who knows what his interests are. But he is bringing the Tzei Tomei, the Mitzayra, who's supposed to be Chutz L'Machana, he is bringing them into the Haredi, the Orthodox tent, and for a fundraiser. And they should be made an example of Hask, that people should withhold funds from them until they promise and pledge never to do such a thing again. This is what's increasingly happening. Teach New York was a co-sponsor with the JCC. It's a satellite of the OU. It sponsored the lesbian Leah Forrester to speak at a JCC event, JCRC rather, or JCC, whatever it's called, Jewish Community Relations Council, JCRC. In other words, this is just there's an onslaught from all areas. And there's no shemreim hafked le'ircha kol hayom v'kol halayla. We need protection. This program tries to inform and educate people as to what's happening. The noose is tightening. Shame on Hask what they're doing, and they should be held accountable. And make sure that you tell them this. I wish somebody would play this over for Michelle or whoever it is, and for the cons. And make sure you spell my name right. It's Yehuda Levin. You could also come on my chat to hear more of this stuff on a daily basis. 718-469-6999. 718-469-6999. Or you can Google. There's a lot of stuff that I have on the internet. We all have a heter now because of Agudas Yisrael. They tweet and they bleat and they fret and they threat and all this chazarai with this chaynef and that chanfarai and this thing and that thing. So we're allowed to go. So if you're allowed to go on the internet, I'm telling you, the internet, in part, was created for the kind of stuff I'm doing. Where do you get that, Levin? How do you know? Blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you how I know. I do most things with the Meiser Rav. It was Chalamoid Sukkis 1 year, many years ago, when Rav Avigdor Miller was still alive. And the webmaster, Zachal Atoiv, Olav Shalom, Yerachmiel Kabakar, of blessed memory, who was a tzaddik who lived alone in the mountains near South Fallsburg, and he sent a shaila into Rav Avigdor Miller, the Jews for Morality fledgling website. Should I keep it active on Chalamoid Sukkos? And Rabbi Miller basically answered in the affirmative, in other words, full steam ahead. So there you have it. And that was 30 some years ago, over 20 years ago, because Rabbi Miller's gone for 17 years or something like that. So Kal v'chomer for this stuff. I have another Meiser Rav with Rav Avigdor Miller having to do with my radio program. Rav Avigdor Miller, as is well known, did not waste a minute, even by his children, grandchildren's chasnas. He was only there for a certain amount of time. He was very shparaftik. He was very precise about spending any time anywhere. Once he called me over and he told me, the Rebbetzin told me that Rabbi Levine is on the radio. So I stopped to listen. I remember the program. It wasn't one of my shining moments because it wasn't even my program. I was a guest on the activist, the pro-Israel activist, good meaning lady, but you understand it's not our cup of tea per se, everything. Shifra Hoffman. And she invited me on the program. I went on. Believe me, it wasn't a tenth of the stuff that I'm doing. But Rev Miller heard it, and I believe that what he was doing was he was giving me a gushpanka. I believe he wanted to hear how does Levin do, and he was zufrieden. And he wanted me to know that. He realized that there's going to be a time he wasn't going to be there, and that, like he's told me when I was supported Buchanan and on his instructions, ignore them, full steam ahead. And this is what he did. Another time, as I've told before, I criticized Agudas Yisrael. How could they support kach v'kach? How could they do kach v'kach? And somebody who's today a choshev of Magid Shir in Lakewood, and he's a Rav as well, Michael Handelsman, soll sein gesund, came over to me. I heard your program. Yes, he was then a 16-year-old bacher. Amish, Techil Hashem, you're mafazik gedolim, this and that. He said, $100 bet with Avigdor Miller. He's your mentor. I was then in my young mid-20s rather. I wasn't so secure. I got a little nervous. I went to Rav Miller. He said to me first, I didn't tell him the name of the person who told me. I just told him there was this complaint. This is what I said. He smiled. He said, first collect $100. Now afterwards, he might have corrected me. He might have said, be careful, etc., etc. But believe me, Rabbi Sai, from the better part of 40 years ago, I got the Messiah from Rav Miller. I got the Messiah from Rav Miller and from others. Let's move ahead now. We're talking about yank our chains, no wits, Horowitz. You know, there's something like Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law, he has several things of Murphy's Law. One of them is that never go above the level to which you're competent. And the problem is that most people, they're competent up to level, let's say, P. But they're not happy to stop at P. They're driven to go to R, S, T. And Murphy's Law is that you overreach and then you fall down. And that's how it is in many fields. And Yankee Horowitz, for years, I go back with him. I remember him as a Rebbe in Yeshiva Spring Valley, a crackerjack Rebbe, the 7th or 8th grade Rebbe, maybe 6th grade, one of those 3 grades. And I used to go to speak there on behalf of the Tzedakah Yosef Chai before Purim, Matzaros Avyenim. This goes back 30 years ago, approximately. And I remember when he started his yeshiva, I don't know if it's called Noam, something with Noam. I spoke there on occasion. And then he became a Greisa Kanaka. He became an expert in Mamish kids at risk and this and that. And he started to be featured by Gudas Yisrael. And I remember on my old radio program, the Fear Kashas, already then said Nish Geschmeck good, certain things that he was doing, and I challenged him. And that was the end of that relationship. Because I'm an equal opportunity abuser. I show no favoritism. If somebody is doing something wrong, I call him out and hope head him off at the pass. Now, in the last few years, Bekisha Streimel wearing Yankee Horowitz has gone to Israel. He's put out special invitations to homosexual parents. He spoke on a video thing sponsored by Agudas Yisrael and part of a roundtable where he was leaning backwards to show sympathy for the Mishkei Zocha. So what's wrong, Levin? This is a tremendous challenge. What do you want these poor parents to do? What do you want these poor kids to do? Yankee is doing God's work. Let's get Hashkafa. It's not 101. It's 303. It's nowhere near 1010. Again, we have to deal with people who have intimacy problems, whether it's adultery, whether it's underage young women, whether it's sodomy, whether it's they want a tranny, whatever it is. When you make a chabura, when you make a kenufiyah, when you make an Alcoholics Anonymous, but in this place it's Mishkav Zocha, not anonymous. You do Jewish queer youth, and your Baba Maisa excuse is, we have to show people they were in the closet, that other people. Excuse me for a moment. We have to show people that are in the closet, that are suicidal, that are being bullied, that there are other people who also have this situation. We have to give them self-esteem, a pride in their being a human being, etc., etc. They finesse and they slither and slather. Again, what happens is misery loves company, and each one reinforces each other. Of course, piously, the master snake, Captain Queer, Zach Malki Levovitz, who is mamish a choyti umachti asarabim. It's not enough that he is motivated, that he cannot deal with his lust, and he is motivated. His life has become his genitalia. Despite all of his personality, attributes, his life is basically his genitalia. So he's going to show everybody. So he boasted on my chat how he went up against Rabbi Yechiel Per, his Rosh Yeshiva, and then he went to learn with his son Bechavrusa, and he spoke to his wife, and he got them against him. Why am I saying this in public? I'm showing you what a nocha she is. Hashem gives a power to the Erev Rav. Asidin Esav Lisate Fitalis, it says in Chazal and Midrashim. He's going to look like the biggest righteous scholar. He's going to sit in the Mizrachvant until the chosen few are going to realize how dangerous he is and escort him out. This is what Captain Queer, it's not enough. He couldn't take his genitalia and his lust and go off and do Yilbash Chayri and Yelech L'Mukam Acha to soda voce quietly, still a hate, do his Averis, and be a hypocrite. No, he has to have pride. It has to be in your face. And it's not enough to do it in your face. It's not enough that we have to have, quote unquote, Afro-Lepume chasanas now, where they mention Hashem's name and they have chuppahs. They got to do all this garbage. That's it. But he's gone to the nth degree, Levovitz. He made something called Jewish queer youth. He became a social worker. So he knows. You understand? They come to the wolf. to deal with the chicken coop. The parents come to him to consult. Did he ever in his career tell a child, you're still in a state of fluidity, and go to this and this psychologist, this and this rabbi, this and this rebbe, and this who knows what? And maybe you can really be quote unquote regular, normal? No, Baba Mises, please. He'll quote you every statistic in the world that it doesn't happen. By the way, this week on my chat, and you can find this on LifeSite News, there's a video and an article about a man who was deeply steeped in the Mishkav Zacha lifestyle into his 20s, and through religion, Christian religion, he went ahead, he normalized, he's married, happily married with 3 children. You see it on the video. So we'll come along to Menavolim who let their passions master their psychology. And he says, yeah, they all slip up, they all this, they're all... Who cares? Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam. Yes, I can't tell you that they are not called bisexuals, that they don't continue to have a taiva. That is their challenge there in the soyin. But they're doing tremendous in that they're curbing the taiva as best they can, and they're trying to lead a normal life. Can every single Mishkav Zacha do that? I didn't say that. But there are definitely many, or a certain percentage, who can. Who's working to make that happen? So what's wrong with yank my chains, no wits, Horowitz? The answer is he's using all the terminologies. He's become craven like them. He is leaning over backwards to show them. He's making appointments with the parents. He's meeting with them in groups. The biggest avla is group, because group gives positive reinforcement, subconsciously and in some cases consciously. We must deal with everyone who has a problem, who wants to approach us, the general Haredi community, our psychologists, our rabbis, our teachers, etc. Of course we must deal with this. Of course we can't stick our head ostrich-like in the sand, like Ahmadinejad, who said at Colombia, we have no homosexuals in Iran. Of course that's ridiculous. But how do you deal with them? You deal with them individually. By making a group, it's positive reinforcement. And the raya is that snake Levovitz, what does he do? A charming snake. He sings nice, he writes nice, he's a comedian, etc. But that's the power that Hashem gives to the Erevav, or downright Amalek. Asher korcha baderech loshin keri mishkav zacha. This is the face of, for sure, the Erevav, if not worse. Yes, it's not nice to say that, but I say it straight to Levovitz, and I send it to him on my text. There's a price he pays to be on my chat. Why do I have him on my chat? Because of his teaching moments. Now, most people are not capable of debating with him and of revealing him, excuse the double entendre, exposing him and his deviousness and his homosexual fed statistics. Yeah, I'll give you one statistic. You know, child abuse, I said that in child abuse, it's either 50-50 or 40-60. That means boys and girls almost equally abused. So I said a simple thing, which the Los Angeles Times said back in the 90s when they were still allowed to do this. Now they can never get away with this. Now they wouldn't do this. They've all drank the Kool-Aid. So he said, obviously, if the homosexuals are 2-3% of the population, and 40 to 50% of the child population, of the teen population that's being molested are boys, who's doing it? The ladies? It's men. So it's ipso facto raya that the homosexuals are much more driven to abuse underage children of all ages through the teens than are people doing it to women. So they have an answer for that. No, if you really dig into the statistics, which I don't believe anyhow, it's a sheker, you'll find that a lot of the people who are doing this molesting of boys are themselves heterosexual men. And it's not a homosexual type of thing. It is a power thing. They want to have power over the children. So these are heterosexuals. The homosexuals are hallelujah. They're so wonderful. You know, this is the garbage that they do. The Goebbels' big lie. What's the answer to that? To the extent that they're heterosexuals, sheker. And it could be that the Torah holds, it could be that there's no such thing as an absolutely pure homosexual, or very, 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 very infrequent. Most people are actually bisexual. And for whatever the reason is, that means they can perform with the opposite gender. So those heteros that Levovitz will quote, guarantee you, if you check their intimacy tzitzis, you'll find that they are bisexual. So it's the Mishkav Zachar aspect of them that's doing this with the kids. It's just the kind of lies and the Chazarei they're doing. So anyhow, getting back to Yankee Horowitz. So he now attacked, in addition, in the most disgusting, meistic way, he attacked the Jewish press. He followed up on Levovitz and Chaim Levin, who attacked Elliot Resnick of the Jewish press and Elliot Resnick personally. And they attacked the Jewish press because the Jewish press allowed an article in which a person wrote against the Gay Pride March. He said, animals just act with lust, but men control themselves. Ooh, this is a terrible avla. This is a way, says Yankee, the Balmusa Horowitz. This is a way to talk. Oh, so he throws out the baby with the bathwater because he doesn't like it. By the way, that article never said that the homosexuals are animals. But there was an inference that they were letting the animalistic, the nefesh habahamis, the animalistic part. So what does Horowitz say? No, it's the Yetzer Tov that's driving them to sodomy or to adultery or to underage relations or anything else. Stamachaya. After the Jewish press published his letter, he tweets, I'm upset that they didn't apologize. They didn't buy with obeisance and genuflect Yankee Muksa Machmas Mius Horowitz. He's written other things disgusting. He writes an implication that somebody associated with the Jewish press, because he's anti-Mishkav Zachar, he was told by somebody big that the people who have a preoccupation with Mishkav Zachar, let's say, are themselves have that problem. That's what he's saying. Now, I got to say right out there, I had 9 children and Kanena are grandchildren, etc. No, they've been throwing this thing, the Litzonim. Remember the Litzonim? They didn't start yesterday. Litzonei Adar said, May Avi Melech is Abra Sarah. So Litzonim have cheped me, Yehuda Levin. What's your preoccupation with this? No, the fact that I have a Migdal told me to get involved. The fact that I was encouraged by the Debretzin, the Shem B'tziana Balocha, etc., all the Gedali Yisrael, that has nothing to do with it. Levin, you must be a Mishkav Zachar. Okay, thank you very much. Now they're doing it. Yankee Horowitz, the big tzaddik, who talks about Rebbe, you hear in one breath he talks about Rebbe Yisrael Salanta, in another breath he makes this crude, low-life kind of implication, like the low-life slime Levovitz. Shame on you. If anybody has to ask apologies in Mechila, you have to ask it big time, Horowitz. He's Muksa Machmas Mias, and he's another case of the camel getting its nose into the Haredi tent, like Jeff Leb, who marches with the Mishkevei Zocha. And this is the danger that we're facing. Part of tonight's program is called Noachide Notifications. This is going to be a new feature. I wanted to give it a name because, as I said at the outset of this program, the leitmotif of this program is that we have to see what the Toivim Shebu'umas are doing, and that becomes our baseline. We have to do at least as much as that, because if not, it's a Chil Hashem that they're doing, we're not. And that was the psak from the Shom Mitzvah Balacha. That's the implication of Moshe Feinstein when he says, Laharis Golyu L'chol Amen. We have to do, even if none of the Gentiles would do, we have to do. But Kal V'chaim if they're doing. So in order to compel us, to impel us, to encourage us to do, most of us are ostrich like in our community. We're busy with our wives, our families, our children, our daf yomis, our vacation plans. They don't bother to see, and in the Yater Hamadiyah, God forbid they should do like the Jewish press that partially lists some of the stuff that's going on. So our people don't know. So one of the main services that I provide on my chat, which you can join an app, 718-469-6999, and what I put out videos for, etc., is to tell you on almost a daily basis what the Toivim Shebu'umas are doing. They haven't given up the struggle. So that should be machayev us. and that should act as a catalyst to us. So I'm calling this Noachide notifications, because in Hashkafa, one of the reasons that the Noachides are doing this is because Hashem wants that we should get a signal, a wake-up signal, to emulate them. Chochma bagoyim taimin. It's like Midas Peronius. Hashem said in Sfanya 3, Neshamti Pinois, I destroyed buildings. Amarti achtiri v'tikrimusa. Notice what I'm doing. I'm bringing floods and hurricanes, etc. Notice it and take chastisement and get the lesson. Smell the coffee, v'mizakt. But you didn't do it, says Safanya. And that is not only a prognostication. That was not only a prescription at that time, a description, but that is a prescription for us for all times. Now, Mida Taiva, the good side, is much better. In other words, it's quantifiably more. Mida Taiva Meruba Mida Peronius. So what we have to do now is we have to do positive things. If the Umas HaOlam are doing Kal V'Chaim, we have to do more. And that's what Rav Moshe meant when he said, Lekadei Shem Shamayim, Laharis Goli, L'chol Amim Shabbat Shem Sanei Teva. So here we begin with a brief reading of Noachide notifications. And Maryland, Republicans refused to defund the library. At the library, they have the power, this committee in a place in Maryland County has the right to defund the library. And the library is having disgusting drag queen story hours to the kids. The parents came down en masse. The commissioners were very uncomfortable. They're Republicans. Don't think Republicans means good. You have to be biting their political citrus. They're refusing to do anything, and the parents are up in arms. To be continued. We're going to see how this lands up. What's it negate to? Brooklyn, Lakewood, Muncie. How about this? There's a group that's made a U.S. Day of Mourning for over 20 million babies that have been black babies that have been aborted in the United States. They're still tumbling with this stuff. Are we doing anything about abortion? Are we doing anything about marriage? A chiyuv, an obligation. Amarti achtiri v'tikri musa. In Ontario, doctors have already killed 700 people since January. In the first half of the year, in euthanasia, assisted suicide. It's coming to a theater near you, to a hospital. Okay? It's coming to a hospital. It's being done wholesale for many years, still a hate. But now it's becoming more and more manifest. And they redzechain the people or the relatives that they're doing these, your grandmother, your grandfather, this and that, you're doing a favor. By taking them out of their suffering, pull the plug, do not resuscitate, withhold treatment. In France, they just had a person who was starved to death against the will of his mishpacha, starved to death by the authorities, despite the Pope, despite what everybody said. Ritzicha, Rabbi Sai. But don't do anything. Don't ask the three stooges, Bennett, Melman, and Goldenberg. Bennett, Melman, and Goldenberg. Don't ask them before you follow this stupid, chamor-like advice on who to vote for. Farrah Lewis has already voted for trans Chazarian garbage. They couldn't even extract when she desperately needed. She won by 400 votes now against this Monique. She barely scraped in. Did the Yidden sit down and tell her? Do you think they're not going to have to give a din v'cheshbon for why they didn't sit down and tell her to do something about the morality there? Farrah, church-going Farrah Lewis? That's what's going on, Rabbi Sai. Are they doing anything for us? Are they doing anything for us? Yocham Silva with his good friend, that Chashuda, Diane Savino, State Senator Diane Savino, that Chashuda, that she's one of the other kind, you understand? She's not married. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. Who really cares? What we care is she posts all the schmutz. So, Rabbi Yeruchim, my good friend, talking in the name of Agudas Yisrael, listen, we can't have everything. We have to this, we have to that. So the money you get from her, the things we get for the private school, blah, 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 it's called Esnan Zoyna. You're not allowed to use the wages of prostitution or by selling a dog. That's how you're going to build the base of Mikdash or Torah? Really, Rabbi Yeruchim? Really? Ezra Friedlander. Yep. Next Noachide notification. Facebook bans groups trying to stop drag queen story hour as hate speech. You hear? They're cutting us off at all ends. They can preach and go and zetz us away. But we cannot use Facebook to protest the drag queen story hour to our young little children, because that's hate speech. We have to encourage the Trump administration that they have to make regulations that if the internet is open to everyone, then it's got to truly be open to everyone, and that these lowlifes, some of them who are Jews, who own these things, should not be allowed to poison society and censorship. Ontario teachers are progressively brainwashing kids, students with LGBTQ. They're ahead of us, but it's coming soon to New York. Now, Fox News has a woman named Rachel Campos Duffy. Guess how many children Rachel Campos Duffy was married to a Michigan or a Minnesota congressman named Sean Duffy. Guess how many children this Catholic couple has? Simin Tov and Mazel Tov. They're expecting their 9th child. What is this about, Hashkafa? Because we like to pride ourselves while all those people are having 1 or 2 children and a dog. The Gentiles, we are my Nefesh, we're having 9 kids. So 10 kids, 13 kids. So if we don't do fighting the immorality and everything else, but we're popular because of the great contributions we're making to having kids. Big thing. Hashem shows us that this lady called Activist Mami, who has 10 kids and homeschools them, and she wrote a book that's a bestseller, and she has an organization and she wrote a book not on my watch. So that puts to lie. So now you have this Campos Duffy. She's expecting her 9th kid. She said, you should see the article. As many as God gives us is the biggest gift. And kids who come from larger families, they're more sensitive to others because they have to deal with others. They can't be so spoiled because they have to share everything, etc. Unbelievable. All this is chayvus to us. But of course, we don't know about it. It's very convenient. We don't know about it. Why? When Habedia puts in all kinds of stupid articles that are here today, gone tomorrow of the secular news, they can't put in these morality articles. Why can't Mrs. Ruth, it's a mitzvah to say the first name, Mrs. Ruth Lichtenstein, okay? And the Habedia staff, the paper that you don't have to be ashamed of, you can be proud to take into your living room. Why can't they give us more of these stories? Is something wrong with these stories? It might even be machayev us to do something. You think they're not going to have to explain? In other words, I think I heard B'Shem the Gra many years ago, din v'cheshbin. Din is the actual zach. Cheshbin is the ripple effects of what you do or you don't do. So the ripple effects are you have a newspaper. You could be putting in 2 or 3 pages every day of what the Toim Shabbat are doing to let people know there's a revolutionary war going on. There's a civil war going on. And you let them lull them into a false sense of security by only putting in, not what the conservative, religio-conservative, politically conservative media is putting in, which was important for us, but you give them the same garbage about a bridge here, a goose was walking across the street here, they find somebody in upstate New York or Rensselaer County there. You understand? This is what Habadia is writing about on a daily basis, okay? Think about it. Wake up. Smell the coffee. Now, what else do we have? Now we come to, we have to give a yashar koyach. I have to give a yashar koyach to Councilman Yeager. I've criticized him in the past for votes that he's made. I criticize him even though he denies it, that there was an article in the Jewish Week that states that he marched with Fernando Ferraro, he was working for in the Queen's homosexual parade one year. He denies it. And he's very angry. He sent me messages. I know what I read in the paper. It's strange that it's not true, and it's strange that he didn't write a letter right then when it appeared in the paper opposing it and saying it's not true. Very strange, but I'm not going to get into that. I criticized Yeager on the votes, and I criticized what his wife's been doing with tweeting pro-Mishkav Zacha garbage for the last year that we've known, at least. But now I have to give a compliment to Yeager, because there are 4 votes in the city council, which everybody, 45-0, everybody who was present voted for, including Chaim Deutsch. Chaim is my friend. Maybe he won't talk to me anymore after this. I can't help it. But Nebuch, Chaim, the chips are where they fall where they may. In other words, if you're not embarrassed to do this stuff, I'm not embarrassed to say it. If you don't care about me and your own Haredi community enough to be proud. I can't care. I hope we don't lose the friendship, but I can't care about my relationship. I have a job to do. Who gave you the job? A lot of Gedolei Yisrael from yesteryear. So here are 4 of the bills with the numbers that Yeager abstained from. Chaim Deutsch and 44 others voted for. There were a few people who were absent who didn't vote. The numbers, just you should know that this is real, are 1513, 1514, 1530, and 1535. All of these bills are basically to elevate the status of trannies, of transsexuals, the latest craze, the Abby Steinification of humanity. Now, there was a big machloikis in the LGBTQRST community for years. The trannies were pushing their nose under the tent, and the homosexuals and lesbians said, no. You're too odd. You're too mishuga. They said, what do you mean? You're allowed to do it like you want to do it, and we want to do a next step. So we're out. There was a big machloikis for years. And basically, the trannies won the machloikis, and it's LBTQ. It's with a T. So now they're all rushing to put in a lot of legislation on city, state, and even federal level, if they could, so that transsexual, transvestite becomes as normalized as they've made the lesbian and the gay and the queer, etc. I don't like to use that terminology, the sodomists, the perverts. So they have a series of bills that have to do with prisons, and each one is identifying the group as transsexuals. Now, Chaim is such a baldrachman that he agrees with all of his lowlifes comrades in the city council that he can't be looking too extreme, because if not, he's not going to be able to help us on important things. So what do you want? Transsexuals shouldn't have reports about them. They shouldn't be assigned housing or substance abuse with the Shem, L'Shem, Yichud, Kutchabrichu, transgender. The psychologists and social workers that deal with them shouldn't have to go through sensitization courses, that they should be skilled and understand and compassionate how to deal with people who are over darises. And I don't know what the halach would say about a ben Noach who's messiahs themselves. Does that fall under the category of the Shemus ben Noach? I don't know. If there's Talmud Chacham out there that knows, please email me at rabbilevin@gmail.com, rabbilevin@gmail.com. I don't know the halacha, but I know this. As soon as there's a legislation that has trans in it or LBT, you vote against it on principle. You're supposed to do. That's what Moshe says. It's not enough to be absent. It's l'spoya neged habills. Lahar is goli l'chol ha'amim. She'am Hashem soini teves Hashem. Okay. So Chaim Deutsch has to get an award. He has to get a new middle name. Transparency. So Trans Chaim Tranny Deutsch. He's transparently tranny affirming Chaim Deutsch. Chaim Tranny affirming Deutsch. Because he's busy affirming trannies. 4 bills in one day, 1513, 1514, 1530, 1535. He's doing a great job. Now, Yeager, who would have normally voted for this stuff, he's voted for worse stuff. Yeager abstained. And I want to give him a personal thank you, even though Reb Moshe said it's not enough to abstain. You have to vote on Kagan. But it's a big improvement from the Chilul Hashem of Chaim Deutsch. Ein zu Chaim, ubacharta b'Chaim. Don't vote for this. This is Bachirus Maves. This is a death style. Yeager at least abstained. You know why he abstained? Let me tell you, it's very interesting. Metamorphosis. Since they threw him under the bus, when one of them in the volume there in the city council did something which was so pro-Palestinian and anti-Israel, and he felt it was anti-Jewish, whatever, and he said something, so they threw him the heck off of his committee, and he became a muhram. Corey, the homosexual speaker Johnson, decided that this ortho Jew is disposable. I've still got Chaim Deutsch I'm friends with, who tweets out pictures of me going to the kotel of the homosexual militant, former homosexual journalist, Corey Johnson, you understand, who voted against security for yeshivas, I think, a number of years ago. All right, he's good friends with Chaim Deutsch. So what does he need Borough Park's Yeager for? So Yeager realized that he's now been cut off. He saw and Hamadia, if you saw the interview with the four politicians, that in the last week, I didn't have a chance to see this week, part 2, if it's in this week's, but Yeager spoke very sardonically, cynically, angrily about the fact that he knows he can't have any influence because he's in Chayram. So at least the Erlich Yid of him came out lemechzel l'shlish partially, and he abstained from these votes. So I have to thank you. I have to give you a bracha, Rabbi Yeager, not rabbi, he's far from a rabbi. I want to say to you that when you do something good, I'm happy to announce it. What you did is only 50% good. Abstaining is not enough. You should have voted against it. Then you would have gotten a lot of media attention. Maybe you were afraid of it, etc., etc. You would still get reelected by Borough Park. So what do you care? They're garbaging on you, garbage back on them for Kvayt Shamayim, for spiritual investment, for the purity of your children and grandchildren, to counteract the stupid tweets your wife is saying. But all right, but at least you're there halfway, so I want to give you the yashikaya for that. Now, let's see. Okay. The Washington Examiner had an article that Reading, Pennsylvania mayor, a few hours before they were supposed to, he refused to allow them to raise a homosexual flag over the city capitol. Now, in the article, it says, he said, listen, I'm not opposed to what you think, but I think we're opening up a door when we have a lot of flags. Everybody wants his flag, this and that. Whatever the reason is, already even for this non-Jew, we have to give credit because he had the chutzpah to actually say not to raise a homosexual flag. You understand? Which is a lot better than the Chamor, Dov Hiken, fighting they should be able to have Israeli floats and Israeli flags in the homosexual parade in Washington, D.C. Now, in the Jewish press, I don't have time to get into this. In the Jewish press, there was a bunch of letters to the editor because of the chutzpah they were attacking because this person, as I told you, Benjamin, wrote an article in which he said something about in the opening of the article about the animalistic things. There was an inference that what is the homosexual coupling or the adultery coupling? Right? It's not animalistic. Kudos to the Jewish press and Elliot Resnick, and it's a sign to them that they should know that they can try to run, but they can't hide. Eventually, there's going to be more and more pressure, and the smartest thing for them to do is to stand up now. It's a sign, Rabbi Greenwald, Mrs. Mauer, it's a sign, and Rabbi Mr. Greenwald, my good friend Jerry Greenwald. Listen, here in the Jewish press, behind the news, I advise you strongly to subscribe to the Jewish press because of the good stuff that they are doing. And on page 61, or 48 rather, new activist party formed. You got to read this article. Not the Haredim. The Haredim are not the ones who formed a new party called Noam, against that I told you about. If I was in Eretz Yisrael and I believe in voting, not like the Sat Mashita, I wouldn't vote for the jokers, Degel or Shas, the compromisers, etc. Once in a while will greps up a thing. I would vote for Tau. Tau is Ach Tiri B'Tikri Musa. The Haredim have to learn the Chardalim are the ones who are standing up and fighting across Israel. The Mizrachiniks are fighting against the Mishkav Zohar, not the Haredim. It's a tremendous Chil Hashem, a tremendous embarrassment. Mary Rabbi Sai, in the final moments. I want to give a tribute to Israel's Minister of Education. He spoke about conversion therapy, Rabbi Rafi Peretz. Oh, it's gewaldic. Again, we see these kinds of people doing things. You understand? It should have been a real Haredi, meaning from a good or degel, a nechtige tag. Doesn't affect them. We're going to be chayiv. Rabbi Sai, I'm listed in the Kiddush Hashem morality. I'm listed in the Chesed Fund. Please, I need your help. Please, it's like spitting in the wind. I have to lower myself and beg. I need the help to continue this program. Until we meet again, this is Yehuda 11. Try to speak it up. Speak about the program to others. Join the chat at 718-469-6999. Please try to get in touch with me. You can send me an email. I need your help. I need your support. I'm not looking to make a profit, just to cover my expenses. Rabbi11@gmail.com. Check out my website. It's not current, but it's very interesting stuff I've been doing for the last 40 years. Look at the bios. RabbiLevin.com. This is Yehuda Levin. Until next week, in Yesa Hashem, a guten Shabbos, a guten Tamid.